Greetings, travelers, and welcome to the Arkenstone, a place to sit by the fire, take a load off, and meet some new adventurers. Today's weary traveler is a romantic half-orc cleric, so let's watch how he was created from sketch to full color while I talk about the process. This was a difficult one, and it wasn't until after I had rewatched the time-lapse shortly before recording that I fully remembered the internal battles I was having with the pose and proportions. Before I get into that, however, I wanted to talk about the character itself because I really enjoyed the discoveries I made while researching when I was first given the prompt for a cleric, which in the land of fantasy is usually viewed as a holy person of sorts, depending on their religion or chosen deity they serve. Well, ashamed as I am to admit, but I have never found this style to be fascinating, as my mind's eye immediately pictures drab whites, golds, robes, and staves. Nothing that really sparks my imagination. That was until I read up on the class through a Dungeons & Dragons player's handbook and discovered the huge variety of gods or deities they can align with, ultimately changing how I viewed the types of personality, armor, and clothing one might have given their choices. From woodland domains to the power of thunder and war, or the gods of mischief, there was a lot to draw inspiration from. Not least of which was the forge domain, artisans who work with metal, through which the gods teach patience, hard work, and, quote, even the most intractable metal can be transformed from a lump of ore to a beautifully raw object, end quote. Now, this is the kind of information that my brain feeds on when designing a character. It's sort of like filling a glass with water, but the water is replaced with ideas, and I just have to figure out what I think works best for their personality. For this one in particular, it wasn't too difficult to run with a blacksmith theme, while still trying to pay an homage to the romantic part of my prompt, bringing us back to my struggles with the particulars of this cleric. So the sketch worked out easy enough, but for anyone wondering, I always start out with a very rough sketch where I try to capture a specific feeling in the personality, along with figuring out the shape language I want to represent. And what I mean by shape language is, if we were to break down a character to its most basic form, what sort of shapes would we end up with? Triangles, circles, cylinders, squares, you get the picture. Anyways, it wasn't until I tried refining the sketch that I started running into problems. Mainly proportions, if you haven't already noticed all of the revisions when it came to the arms and legs. Heck, I even went so far as to try and completely ignore the most important part, the little flame heart, just to get past my roadblocks. However, in the end, I knew I needed to make it work, not just for the overall look, but also for my own satisfaction and growth. Which is when I did what I almost always do if I hit this kind of wall. I take pictures of myself in the pose I need, then use that as a reference to correct those minor mistakes. Although I still think it needs more tweaking, I'm pretty happy with the results. The mantra "finished not perfect" comes to mind. And now, just to tie everything together, it was a lot like a blacksmith. Forging, hammering, cooling, and reshaping the design in order to mold this into something I felt that I could present not only to myself, but also to all of you. So that about wraps it up for this character. I'm going to let it finish out in peace, and I'll catch up with you guys at the end of the video. Well, there you have it. My character design for a romantic half-orc cleric. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I'll either reply or talk about them in the next video. So as always, I'm Benjamin Humphreys. Thanks for watching and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Good night.